We are live. What's up, Facebook? Welcome back to season 3 of Historically Haunted, sponsored by trucker Donnie Green from Pet Cemetery, his trucking company, Bauer Green Logistics LLC, and his family's trucking company, John Green Logistics Trucking Company. My guest tonight is a childhood. I didn't know him as well as I do now. Obviously, back when you're a kid, you don't know who fucking directors and producers and shit are, actors. You just know you like. But I grew up on the films Dawn of the Dead and the Spookies. Spookies, not the Spookies and Dawn of the Dead I grew up on. And my friend here coming up now, he was the writer, producer, acted in Spookies. He was an actor, one of the zombies actually in Dawn of the Dead. He also he did a lot of work in Street Trash, which I just watched. It's an 87 movie. I'm surprised I never saw that. Igor and the Lunatics, which I haven't seen yet. I'm going to have to see that. I'm guilty of that. He's got a couple other new ones in the works. So without further ado, I can't leave him waiting in chat anymore. Hopefully my Wi-Fi sticks out with me here in Maine. But let's bring on, there's Frank. What's up?
Hey. How you doing, Adam?
What's up, man? We talked a little bit backstage. Hey, Betsy, tuning in already. We got 6 people watching. That's a record, dude.
Well,
man, oh, man.
You're for bringing me on.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for saying yes and sharing. I want to welcome you, and I want to say thank you. And I also want to start with the show with, obviously, we talked a little bit backstage, but I want our listeners to know, Franco, what got you started into this stuff, into scary movies? Was it Frankenstein as a kid or something? Or
well, definitely one of the things was that it really came down to, I think, at a fairly young age. I seem to remember maybe when I was in maybe the 3rd grade or something, I just became increasingly fascinated with I won't say it was like I instantly became a horror fanatic, but I started to like. I started out probably seeing all the old 50s and 60s horror movies on TV, and and all those American International movies, and I really found myself digging that stuff. And in those days, I mean, the way the TV was programmed, you'd have like a channel the local ABC affiliate just before their 6 o'clock news. This is one of the 3 major networks. Just before their 6 o'clock news, they would show a movie, and it was invariably some kind of a movie that would appeal to kids who just got home from school. And so they showed lots and lots of monster movies. So that maybe is where it started.
Like Creature Feature. I remember that back in the 80s.
Yeah, that type of thing. And then I eventually all the Universal horror movies in that period in the 40s, 30s and 40s became very inspirational to me. I just love the atmosphere, the design, the eccentricity of it. I feel that's one of the things I miss in a lot of contemporary horror films. They don't really seem to spend much time on certain little details. I mean, some films do, some directors do, but I like the craftsmanship that went into those films.
I think a lot of people just want the quick jump scare. They want the reaction instead of really getting, I guess, almost the art into it. Almost the the Tom Savini. Like, you kind of want that little extra, like just that little bit of, right? I mean, you're an artist, man. Fuck, I ain't telling you nothing you don't know.
I think it just depends. I mean, there's still plenty of artists making films.
Yeah, that's true.
Bear in mind, because there's also more films being made technically than ever, because anybody can make a micro budget movie pretty much if they at least have the ambition. That it doesn't really cost all that much necessarily anymore, but it's a matter of what do you bring to it, what do you put into it, what are you trying to do. And I think right now I think most people are doing it to have a good time, because it's ultimately one of the things movie making is, just beyond being just like sometimes very pressured and very difficult, is just it's a good time. It's a good experience of working with other people.
Well, what would your if you have any to share wisdom, or I guess just a little bit of encouragement, what would you be just your inspiration, like for someone, just go for it? You would tell them just do it? I
think you have to, and I think nowadays it's just so easy. I mean, I literally I got a new phone like about 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm walking down the main street of my town, which is a small town, and there's light from stores and street lights and stuff, and I'm looking at everything through my camera, and I'm looking at this, and then I'm recording video, and I'm saying, all right, if you just ran this on a screen, I wouldn't know what medium this was shot in. It looks really damn good. It took no effort to shoot this. It's so easy now that people who have no idea what they're doing can get away with almost convincing the audience that they have
Yeah.
something.
I mean, everybody's a YouTuber, right? Which is kind of like a small director. They all have their own channel. I'm guilty of that. And they all think they can do it. And I guess you're right. And it's cool. There's room for everything because you can not watch or watch. But shit, I dig that. Everybody, I'm sorry. Everybody in chat's checking in and saying, "What's up, Frank?" Michael Butani.
Hello.
Hey, Adam and Frank, says Doug Severs from Haunted Souls Paranormal. John Byrne, you're my friend who's recovering beating cancer up in Washington State.
He congratulations. I hope that keeps up. Yes.
He's a good man. Jeff Schlater, who's in the Warren Legacy Foundation, Ed and Lorraine Warren's foundation, works with them. My girlfriend, Heather, she was so pumped to meet you. I've been talking about you nonstop, dude. I've been your little fangirl for last week.
I'm here, so hopefully maybe we'll be in the same room someday.
Yes. Oh, there's my sponsor, Donnie Green. Donnie, you'll never forget it. At work today, I sweat so much, I took my hat off and I left it at work. I have this trucking hat I'm supposed to wear as my sponsor. So Donnie's the one that killed Gage in Pet Cemetery, and I should be wearing his fucking hat, and I'm not. But thanks, Donnie, for checking in. Busted. Julia Olivia, hello, everybody. Everybody's checking in. Nomar, who chases aliens. He's an alien hunter. And he writes about that all stuff, says, "What's up, Adam and Frank?" So, yeah, man, I got to ask you a couple questions, I guess personal questions, kind of funny questions.
I'll answer virtually anything you may ask.
Oh, I fucking love this guy. You're a champ. Well, it's fun stuff. It's easy stuff. Give me a couple bucket list places. Where haven't you been? Well, I'm sorry. Let me start with this.
90% of the world I haven't been to.
Really? Europe or nothing? Or Italy? I know you're Italian like me.
I have not, man. I have never gotten to Europe. I've been to Asia. I've been to Japan, to China, to Hong Kong, to numerous islands in the Caribbean and the Pacific. I think did I lose you? Hold on. No. Hold on. Oh, okay. I lost the window there.
I do got bad Wi-Fi. I live in Maine, and all the squirrels don't run the fucking mill half the time. So
I'm fine. I generally, what was I saying here?
Places that you want to go.
Oh, I'd like to visit most of the world because I haven't been there yet. I have not had a chance to get to Europe. I did get to parts of Asia, which is something I'd really wanted to do for a long time. But I spent a lot of time in Mexico. And I think I really like to travel. I think it's important.
Yeah, well, I guess that brings you to another personal question. Have you been to New England? Have you been to my area? Have you been to Massachusetts or Maine or anything?
Are you in Massachusetts?
No, I'm in Maine. I live in.
I've been at various times all throughout that area, Maine, Massachusetts. Vermont.
Really?
Yeah, I like the area a lot. I have had friends that lived up there. That I had a girlfriend that lived that had a house in Vermont. Pretty. I tend to like most of the country, except I'm not crazy about the humid. When it's hot, I can handle. It's like hot and really humid. It gets to be a little much sometimes.
Oh yeah, Arizona, that dry heat and shit. Yeah, it'll kill you. Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, I live about 45 minutes away from Bangor. I'm a big Stephen King nut. I've been to like pet cemetery sites and like the mill used in graveyard shift and shit like that. Right. So what about like as far as like that goes? You got a bunch of new stuff coming out still. You're not even close to out of the game. You just had something drop in 2022,
well,
right?
To tell the truth, the release of Spookies helped a lot to just give me a higher profile, revive the possibilities that were open to me. I'm working on getting together a Spooky sequel. There's been a lot of I was not ready for all the kindness and love that I had been shown by fans. They've really given me a new perspective on everything, especially the movie Spookies.
I had to show a little bit real quick.
Oh, here you see the opening titles, which were added by the later crew that took over the film. But if you notice, the Spookies logo is basically stolen from the Goonies logo.
Ouija board. How do you play?
Oh my God, it's the same skull.
It's the same skull. And that to me is these people, when myself and my partners walked off the movie, you have an idea of the story. The people that were hired to come in, I don't think they had any taste or talent ultimately.
That's pretty wild, man. I mean, obviously when they're attacking and you look at it now, and I guess it's like, it's just a classic, but the fucking makeup, the effects, the plot line of it is so unique. There's really nothing like it. Is that fair? I mean,
To be fair, the film as it currently exists, the whole subplot with the sorcerer and all that was not part of our movie. Our movie was about the people who come to the house. It began and ended with that. Most of that is cut out of the film that now exists, as well as shortening all the horror scenes, the monster scenes. There's a lot of the effects stuff we shot that just never made it into the final film. And ultimately, because I think it was decided that we would have to get only a certain amount of minutes of our footage because the new director wanted to be able to claim a directing credit.
No. So is that what the new copy has? Does it have the deleted scenes or the?
No. It's got. I mean, ultimately, all the deleted footage was trashed years ago by the backer. There's no way to. I mean, anything could happen. Anything might turn up, but I would not count on it in this.
Yeah. It's the Holy Grail, man. That'd be fucking.
Well, I think they're very curious. And and look, I freely admit, it's like even that version of the film, we were like compromised in so many ways. Our backer demanded we write a very specific story. He wanted to rip off Evil Dead. He wanted, he had a list of things he wanted us to put in the film. So that's why, most of which were cliches he had seen in other horror movies because that was his business. I mean,
I can see that. I can kind of see that. I'm actually kind of bummed out at the end when the grave blows up. I wanted to see who was in it making it breathe the whole time, and it just blows up.
Well, I don't know. That was Creon, and we had nothing to do with the Creon scene.
No shit. Also, too, I know it's maybe must be your first maybe role, but classic. I got signed by Ken Foray, the black dude that was in it.
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time on the set talking to Ken and hanging out. I interviewed him.
Really nice guy.
He was the sweetest guy, And at that time I thought, wow, I think this guy's going to become a big star, and I wish he had become a bigger star because he's got the presence.
Oh, phenomenal. He was in Rob Zombie's Devil's Rejects, played a pimp. Right. Phenomenal actor. It sucks he didn't get a break. He's like a Samuel L. Jackson.
If I get ahead here with my proposed spooky sequel, there's a part for him.
Dude, you could literally kill me. I would love to be, and I'll be a stand. You ever want me, dude? I'll drive to you. I would die to be in.
See, this is one of the. Here's the thing. First of all, I have to explain to fans almost every time I have mentioned this, and I've not said much about it because we're trying to get the business end of everything together. We're trying to put together, the promotional materials in order to raise money. I'm not just looking to crowdfund. I am looking to do like a legitimate movie, a couple of $1 million or whatever it approximately takes to do it. It's very ambitious. It's, how can I put it? It's simultaneously like a very it's a love letter to monster movies, and it has no shame with being that. But at the same time, I'm trying to give it, enough story, enough characterization, enough stuff going on to give it qualities beyond that.
Yeah.
So that it's almost designed that it could almost play on its own as a comedy without the monsters. The monsters just happen to be a part of the story.
I love that. That's unique. That stands out, and it'll be a timeless classic. Yeah, I like that idea. I'm curious to see where the fuck that goes. That's a great idea, man. Yeah, you already got ideas swimming in there, and you always get stuff. What inspires you besides obviously other horror movies? Is there other shit too, or
horror movies? But I'm a very big movie fan of everything, from the beginning of the earliest movies to today. I try and see anything I can that interests me. And,
that's cool. I think that.
And I think what it's done is I think it's given me a different perspective than a lot of filmmakers, because a lot of filmmakers barely have ever seen any films even. I mean, they just happen to get into this career and maybe, they remember, just the films they saw in a 5-year period when they were young, when they suddenly became interested in films or something.
Yeah.
I look at everything. I look at the whole history of cinema. I watch lots of old obscure films and foreign films mainly because I see stuff all the time. It's like, wow, I didn't expect this. Wow, that's incredibly innovative. Wow, that there's always something to learn. And I think because of that, I think I have a different aesthetic. I like I like films that are stylized, meaning I'm not really interested in just straight out reality. I'm more interested. I'd be more interested in doing something and making it believable rather than realistic.
Right. I can dig that. And I think you're like me too, because instead of watching Beetlejuice 95 times, I'd rather watch 95 different movies. If I have time for a movie, I'd rather watch.
I get kind of frustrated because the past few years, and it will probably continue for a while, big revival in 80s movies, 80s entertainment, 80s nostalgia, mainly because a certain group, an age group, has come to a certain age who all that stuff. Yeah, that's the point, right?
We're in our 40s and 50s. We're spending the money now.
And for me, it's different because I lived through the 80s, but the stuff that hit me at whatever age stuff hits you, hit me like in the 60s and the 70s, and it was a whole different bunch of stuff for the most part, right? And but as I said, I have an interest in all of it. I think there's always good stuff, there's always bad stuff. There's certain periods I think are better than others. There's certain times where I think filmmakers have been doing great stuff, and other times where everything just sort of stagnates. But that you got to expect that.
You take the good and bad from all of it. It's kind of a well-rounded.
Yeah, and I think the thing is also with horror film buffs, you also become connoisseurs of bad movies because and I feel the reason that it's easier to make a bad horror film than any other type of film is because most horror film requires more suspension of disbelief on the part of the audience, right? So everything you do that sort of says, all right, this is ridiculous, takes it further and further away from that and makes it funnier, right? I mean, you can have a movie that's completely improbable, but if it's effectively done, man, the audience will buy it. If it's just ridiculous, they're gonna they'll hopefully laugh.
Dude,
at that, but
as you brought it up, Evil Dead, fucking Ash has small ashes jumping in him, and then he fights his own hand and cuts it off. Come on,
that's
but
different.
It's classic.
But it's also an intention. It's totally an intentional comedy. It's not by chance.
That's not.
That's why that's been one of Sam Raimi's big interests from the beginning. He always had a huge touch of comedy to what he did.
Well, I think horror and comedy do go good. Greetings from Miami Beach. Hello, George. Thanks for checking in. Tom Finette says, that's me. Love the 80s and 90s horror sci-fi, not to mention classic shown on Svengoolie, LOL. And then Louis Marino. Sounds familiar. I think you're new to the show. I have a ghost that lives in my house the past 19 years. He died in my apartment. Wow, that's cool. I'm going to ask you that, Frank, because the show is kind of based on paranormal. You believe in ghosts? And have any paranormal encounters through your travels or life?
It's really interesting because I have spent a lifetime because I had developed an interest in. I'm trying to remember which came first. I think I almost simultaneously I developed an interest that spanned from fictional horror in movies and then reading, but also cryptid animals.
Ooh, yeah.
Ghosts, weird stories. I was always fascinated by supposedly true stories, right? And there's like a lot more of that kind of thing available to people nowadays. But back then, anything you found that was anything was like, it's a bit horror sort of, or it's slightly in the vein.
Betty and Barney Hill, alien abduction in the 60s. Whoa, you know what I mean? It's like horror movies in real life, like Bigfoot sightings. I dig that. So do you believe in Loch Ness Monster and Jersey Devil shit?
Here's the problem. I'm still stuck in the middle because I'm not going to disbelieve because I think like virtually anything is possible.
You want proof.
But at the same time, it's like I also know that certainly there definitely people who report things and they're mistaken or they're exaggerating or whatever. So you got to just try and balance all that out. I don't think you can dismiss everything. I don't think you can accept everything.
Well, I guess that brings me to my next question that Doug from Haunted Souls asked you. Frank, have you ever had a real life paranormal?
No, and I'm glad you asked me that question because I'm really pissed off about it. No, seriously, I have like one. Seriously, because that's like for me, it's like, all right, for me to believe something like seriously. There are lots of things I might think are probable or lean one way or the other, but for me to believed in the existence of something, I have to have some evidence that is personal. That you know what I'm saying?
Tom says it, evidence.
And
I agree with you. Yeah. If
I-
someone tells you it's raining out, I'm going to make sure and look before I put a raincoat on. I mean, you want to be
during the making of Spookies, we had a few people report what they claimed were supernatural things that but were like very vague. I mean,
Where was that filmed? That house wasn't on Hollywood Lot, or was that a real house?
that was a real house. It was the John Jay Estate. It was the home of the first lieutenant governor, I think, of New York state, and it was a huge piece of land, and we lived in one house on the property, and also had people living in the main house. In the main house, we shot the film too.
No shit! It's like a huge, almost looks like a big hotel, all the big square windows across.
And it was on a huge piece of property.
Hey, Nate.
Like lots of acres, and there were people claiming, oh, they saw UFOs, and they saw.
No shit.
The thing is, if you're on a big piece of land with like a big open sky, you're going to see something eventually. So I wasn't exactly surprised, but the thing is, there were people who claimed to have seen ghosts, or what they presumed were ghosts, and I was pissed off. I wanted to see the ghosts. I need to.
That's fucking rad. I didn't know any of that. I mean, the house was, I thought it was a Hollywood lot. The graveyard was fake, of course, though. That was just stones.
Yeah, we built the graveyard, styrofoam tombstones in the front.
It looked like real stone.
Well, to tell the truth, that's one of the reasons people use styrofoam for that. Even big people who do big films. I mean, you use certain materials because they duplicate what you want. I mean, you'd be surprised how different things can look on film. Meaning, I did a thing once where we had these huge stone pillars. I mean, like 12 feet around, that were on either side of this big fire, right?
Yeah.
And they were actually these two wooden frames covered over with aluminum foil that was spray and crinkled, that was spray painted gray. And at night, they looked fucking amazing.
Wow.
They also burned down midway through the shoot, but that's another story.
Pennies, little, just spray painted nothing, just nothing, not real material, really, just nothing. Wow. That looked really good. Huh. No shit. Do you keep in contact with any of the old cast or crew, or?
I have been in touch with, to tell the truth, as I said, I'm trying to get a spooky sequel.
Yes. Oh.
So you got to realize also, the thing is, before Spookies came out on Blu-ray a few years ago, it had started, there were several 35 millimeter prints that were still circulating. So it was playing at a lot of like the Alamo Draft House cinemas. It was showing up at museums. After it came out on Blu-ray, it showed up at like 2 or 3 film festivals overseas.
Wow, a rebirth of sorts.
That blew my mind, because it's like, I basically couldn't have, there was a time when I never brought up the film because there was nothing positive would result from discussing.
Oh, you had a kid in Lisbon, Maine growing up liking the Spookies, man. I used to rent it every time I could a chance. My friend would go, Spookies. Spookies?
A lot of people did. I know that, like, things like the initial sales on VHS when it came out were very good. It was the first film released by the first movie company that Sony had, and Sony, became a major player in the film business. But
that's right, kids. VHS, look it up.
And at that time it was a tiny little company, and they had Spookies was their first theatrical release.
Wow. I should know this, and who did the makeup and like the monster? I mean, it's like Tom Savini-ish shit.
It's we started out with a fellow named Arnold Gargiulo, who had done a few things here and there. We had a couple of film projects that we did promotional shorts for that were basically incorporating his makeup effects, and we brought him in. This was Arnold Gargiulo, who we brought in, and he was supposed to be the head monster maker, etc. And we had issues with him at a fairly early part of shooting. And his assistant was a guy named Gabe Bartalos, who took over, 19 years old, and suddenly he's in charge of making
19. What?
Yeah. And he, unfortunately, because he's very talented, he's very he's a really diligent person. He it's important, he's like a real craftsman or an artist. It's like, is important. What they do is as important as anything can be. It's like they have to place work they can turn out.
Yeah.
And he had a chance to do that, and we were, I think, lucky to get him, because at that time a lot of people were doing those kind of effects, like sort of puppetry combined with various other techniques, etc. But I mean, I've looked at the past few years. I've looked at a lot of those movies at that time, like Ghoulies and things like that.
Oh, Ghoulies! Yeah,
Ghoulies is a movie that Twisted Souls. The original title is Spookies. Spookies was basically a ripoff of Ghoulies in terms of a title. But our effects, I've looked at all those Ghoulies movies lately. I've looked at others. Our effects are better, and we had far less money than those movies.
It's just little creatures come out of the shitter. It's just little toilet monsters, and everybody goes crazy.
If you look at that movies like that, it's like they do stuff, but what they do is very repetitive. The creatures themselves don't have much, personality or whatever. Yeah, they wave their arms and they move their mouths.
Yeah, it's puppeteering. So I want to plug a little. We're still got about a half hour to go, but I want to plug some upcoming shit too. Let's talk about Robot Dracula that you're producing. It's in production right now. Is that something?
I got involved with this film through a fellow that I know, James Balsamo, who is. I know several. I mentioned before how everybody can make a micro movie now and show what they can do. But there are a number of people that have become. They're actual companies that do it, but they're also like just guys who are sort of very independent in terms of their sort of, personality style filmmakers who are doing lots of films very quickly for very small amounts of money. They can get financing, but they can pull stuff off that's like, quick to make. We'll get out there. We'll get into distribution. We'll not bring back $1 billion, but we'll bring back a profit.
Yeah.
And and instead of having one film that brings back $100 million, it might be 100 films that bring back a few $100,000 or a few $1,000, whatever it is. It's the thing is, it's a chance for people to make films, which I really approve of.
And like you said earlier, the material's way better. Not material, but the cameras. They're not 9mm. I mean, they're cameras you can buy.
If you know what you're doing, I mean, you can turn out really good-looking work, even if you have to whip through it quickly. In many cases, it really depends. I mean, it's
easier now.
But the thing is, also a lot of people have used, and this happens every time there's like technology that makes things easier. People get lazier in terms of what they're doing. It's like, oh well, we don't need to shoot it from 3 different angles. We can just shoot it all in one shot and stuff like that. I get frustrated with that because I really feel any film, unless you're planning for a specific reason to just do things in single takes. You want cutting. You want a way to engage the audience. You want to, bring out the characters more. And I think you need some semblance of something to work with there. This, I'll tell you, it goes for big Hollywood films too, where I feel like a lot of times they'll just let the camera run, and it's comedians, they'll let them just improv or something. And all right, that's maybe fine sometimes. But at the same time, it's like, to me, it's just like it takes I like movies that are movies that use what you can do with the art form of movies, as opposed to just recording somebody doing something or saying something. I
think that's the difference between like the layman, and no offense to the layman, but since you're in it, you kind of look for the things that most people wouldn't, but I think would overlook, and I think that's what makes it stick out, which is good. What about Hell of the Screaming Undead? I gotta check that out. That sounds great.
I just told you about my friend James Balsamo. He does these movies. I should have mentioned also, he gets major fucking actors to appear in them, and not just actors, but just personalities, celebrities, people with name value, based on, in many cases, just bumping into them at the right time. He lives out in L.A. And it's just man, like this guy, I do this, and then would you appear in my movie for 20 seconds?
Wow, he's a devil in disguise.
Well, he's been really good with this, and so he's been able to form some sort of ties with a lot of named people. I mean, I'm in Robot Dracula, right? And I just have one shot reacting to something, right? Meanwhile, Robot Dracula is played by Malcolm McDowell.
Oh,
I heard that. I was like, of course, I'll appear in anything that Malcolm McDowell is in.
Smart man. That's smart. So I want to go back to a classic because me and a buddy of mine drove over to Evan City.
Let me answer the rest of what you asked me, though.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Hell of the Screaming Undead is another film by a very successful micro-budget producer, Dustin Ferguson, who makes a number of films every year, which varies. Sometimes it's like more films than you would believe anyone could make. But he makes consistent money. He's developed a fan following. He is getting bigger budgets. He is very well connected. He always has a film, about to be made, currently being made, or just finishing, production. So,
wow, workaholic.
If I were younger, I would do that. I would see the advantage in doing that kind of thing. I feel that I'm older now. I have to do something that's maybe more substantial. That shit says, all right, here's you want to see what I can do? Here's what I can do.
Here, hold my beer. Watch this.
Exactly. Because my Spookies partner, Thomas Doran, who was one of the co-directors, co-writers of the film, we remained collaborators and creative partners for years afterwards. He passed away a few years back, and it was very frustrating because we were still making plans to do movies and write scripts, and we knew what was happening now would happen, that the technology would get to a place where like literally all we need is like the camera and like $1,000, and because we're both extremely creative and visual and thought in terms of pictures, and I think we can make really good films. I don't think the money is the major factor. It's a factor. It helps. It definitely helps.
It's your brain, brother. It's your brain, brother.
Right. But sometimes your brain conceives of things that you need the money to make happen. So
you need that paper. You need that green paper. I get it.
He's not here to see what the reaction and the reception to Spookies is now, because that film at the time just sort of crushed his spirit to a degree, because he put so much into it, and and all of us did. We felt it would be something that would give us enough credibility to get out there and get to the next level.
Yeah. And my girlfriend couldn't get enough the fucking farting zombies and shit, and people running through the hallways. And I'm like,
the film that came out as it was, the film that came out, Spookies. Ultimately, we couldn't say, yeah, this is what we do, because it's not exactly what we did. We didn't, so we at the time, we just sort of stepped back. We could have, we had been planning. We knew people at Fangoria at the time, and we're gonna go right to them and say, all right, you got to do this big story on Spooky. And we didn't even talk to them about it, because we were so totally heartbroken by what had happened.
But that's why you're getting the recognition now, brother. You're pairing it on for your fallen brother. You're following it on for the work you've done. You already got a name for it.
Here's the thing. First of all, as I said, I wish my partner Tom was still here, because he deserved some of this pleasure of just being able to connect with people who appreciated a film that he made.
You have no idea what it means to me for you to be my guest. And even my girlfriend Heather says this is so fascinating to hear your stories, man, and to hear your dedication to your fallen brother, and to see what you're gonna. Man, this movie is a classic, and it deserves to be up there. So I'm glad you're getting recognition.
I appreciate that. Look, to me, I'm just amazed that the film getting out there again, and being out there suddenly in perfect quality, which it never was before, and it's widely seen all over the place now. It made a big difference. It's like, and a lot of people still don't like it, and I understand the reason that people don't like it is the same reason that they do, which is that it goes all over the place without making any sense, and it has different story elements that don't really seem to connect properly, which is, as you know, is because of the takeover of the production and the different direction it was pushed into.
That's fucking classic. The ones that don't like it wouldn't like it anyway. You don't need them to like it. Those are the ones you sort out, and they know it. Yeah, so that's fantastic. So was that your first gig? I should have done some more research, but was Dawn of the Dead your first gig?
You mean in anything? Like a big,
yeah.
Technically, all right, here's the thing. We went to the set of Dawn of the Dead about 1979, I'm guessing, something like 78, 70. It was released, I think, in 79. Mm-hmm. And myself and my other Spookies partner, Brendan Faulkner, the two of us, we heard, they need zombies. They're shooting at this mall in
Monroeville.
Yeah. So we drove 12 hours in like a blinding blizzard. Like, seriously, it's like we couldn't see more than 20 feet ahead of us the entire time.
Oh my God.
But it was that important to go that and I had a great time on the set. And I have to say, I talked about Ken Foray a moment ago. But I spoke to just about all the main people.
Romero, dude.
Yeah, I mean, John Amplis and Savini, and I interviewed Savini, before he had really done that much interviewing and had become the name that he was to become.
Yeah, Creep Show with King and them. I went to that place in Maine when they did it. I drove with my buddy to. That's what I was saying earlier. I drove all the way to Evans City to see the Night of the Living Dead cemetery, and on the way back, we stopped in Monroe. We took pictures of the parking lots. You were in them all. I watched it. Yeah. I'm gonna watch it again tomorrow. You were the Seltzer zombie, right? Or
Seltzer zombie, yeah.
But it's been uphill. Not that that's a downhill thing, but I mean that's whatever. But I mean, you do screenplay, you produce, you act. Even still, you put yourself in parts. You really don't shy away from.
I sort of feel as a filmmaker that it's important that you do as many things as you think you're capable of, or that you have an aptitude for. It's probably not a good idea to try and do things that you don't have a talent to do, but I think
amen.
I mean, for me, the creative process is like, I the one fortunate talent I do have is, and it's sort of countered. I can't draw, but I can visualize like almost anything in terms of like everything. I know the framing, camera movement, cuts, and so I try to storyboard.
No shit.
But it's like, to me, it's like, gee, I have all these ideas, and a lot of directors don't do this. They'll just get to the set and do whatever they do. But my biggest concern always, especially having been a producer on a low-budget movie with a whipmaster standing over me, I really just I'm very concerned with, like, there's no reason to waste time. If you walk in and you say, all right, here's this booklet. It's got all the shots we're shooting today, everything. It tells you what we're doing, why we're doing it. You will understand every time we do something. Because I've been in situations where I've said, all right, I want you to do this shot, and I've told them what I wanted.
Yeah.
I've had cameramen say, that's crazy. Why would you do that? I said, well, you don't understand how it cuts.
That's why you're not the director. Don't spoil genius.
Well, it came down to, it's like, you asked me earlier what my earliest actual professional participation in something was. I worked with Roy Frumkes, who was the producer and screenwriter of Street Trash. Right?
Oh, okay.
He was a teacher of mine, and we met and got along. We had shared a lot of interests in film, etc. The first thing we worked on together was an uncompleted anthology, horror anthology, made entirely under the auspices of a college, right? But it was different stories. Different stories originated by different directors, some of whom were students at the film school there, some of whom were professionals. And Wes Craven was one of them.
Oh, Nightmare on Elm Street, guys.
That was that was a film he did before he got, went on to Elm Street, and we had a few other professionals involved, and it had a lot of potential, I thought, but the film never got finished. Right?
Oh, shame.
Years later, I and my partner Brendan Faulkner from Spookies, we were both, each of us, directing our own episode for this. And the money ran out. We couldn't get things completed. The school sort of seemed to be frowning on it. Wasn't that supportive. I think they didn't know exactly how to take it. And so I think it made them look like they couldn't do something like that. But at the same time, I think it was a horror movie. Why would they want to associate with us?
That's Satan's work.
Well, whatever. It comes down to we couldn't finish it, and a few years later, I'm talking to I guess it was Brendan, and we found out that the film was selected by a distribution company to make use of scenes from it, and it wound up as you're familiar with the title Dr. Butcher, MD.
I saw you posted on one of your things. I was going to ask you. Thank you for bringing that up. And what the hell is that?
Dr. Butcher, MD is an Italian zombie film. Zombie Holocaust is the original.
Ooh.
Right? And for the American release, it was released by a company called Aquarius, run by a fellow named Terry Levine, whose office I found myself in.
I'm going to watch all these things you name dropped. I'm going to watch.
And he needed to change the title because he said there was another movie that was coming out with the title Zombie Holocaust, so he couldn't
get out of here.
So he was going to change the title to Dr. Butcher Medical Deviant, and he bought about 3 or 4 minutes of footage of people rising from the grave from our unfinished student film, which was called Tales That Will Tear Your Heart Out, by the way.
Oh, that's a cool name. Well, there is a zombie apocalypse. I watched that where people eat a turtle and they get possessed and they get stakes up their ass and out their mouth like fucking Lord. Okay. Oh man. Mike Botano says the name Robot sells me immediately, and now hearing Michael Botano is in it. Oh, he's a hero. That's back then. Yes, Michael Botano is an independent filmmaker. He worked with Dirk. So that's cool. Filmmaker supporting a filmmaker. Great night tonight. Thanks, you guys. Hey, let's get a little personal, have a little fun here. We got about 20 minutes left. I want to have a little bit of fun. What does Frank do for a nice meal after like a film? Do you have a celebratory big steak dinner, a huge pizza?
I mean, tell the truth, I usually find that no matter what happens, I usually spend most of my time working anyway. So
no shit. You are a workaholic, brother.
I am a workaholic because I like to get things done, but at the same time, it's just if you're making a film, if you're actually in the process of one, whether it's the start or the end, there's always a shitload of stuff to do, and it's more than you can actually get done.
And you can't trust no one with your baby. You really can't.
Well, you can, and the thing is also depending. I mean, right now I'm in the process of taking care of legal and other requirements for the company, the situation that I'm going to use to raise financing for a Spooky sequel.
You're your own attorney too?
No, well, I am to some extent. I can write contracts, but I also believe in checking in with lawyers.
Well, fuck. Frank, come on. Give me one thing you must do to relax. You must watch movies at least. You must do something.
Yeah, I watch movies, all the time, but I live in a small town. It's like, here's the thing. I lived in New York City for many years.
Yeah.
And I actually left under bizarre circumstances, in that I was suddenly I was having trouble.
You like small town?
Well, no, because I lived in Queens, I lived in Manhattan, I lived in Brooklyn, all over New York City. But I wound up moving upstate after I developed a weird illness that was giving me problems with my mobility, and I couldn't, I was having trouble moving and functioning completely.
No,
fortunately, they figured that out, and I'm pretty fine nowadays. But I moved up here for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons I decided to stay is it's a slower paced, easier, totally pressureless life at this time.
It is nice. The town I live in Maine, I think there's 1,200 people here. There's one blinking light, one gas station, and fucking. Right. It's I went to like Rolling Hills, New York. There's an asylum up there, almost by Niagara Falls and stuff. That's a nice area. Upstate New York's actually gorgeous once you get past the cities. For God's sake, it's like Pennsylvania or like Vermont, like you said. So that's cool. So Frank's a movie dude, 100% movies all the time. You don't dig sports or nothing like that? What about music?
My favorite sport is probably professional wrestling.
Oh, dude, check it out.
Yeah, see, that's the so interesting thing too, man. It's like there's huge crossover between wrestling and horror fans, and I think
actually quite well. Do you do WWE? You like Alexa Bliss?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been following WWE right away.
The Lily doll. I'm obsessed with her, man.
You probably don't know this.
Oh shit!
You know the name Bruno Sammartino?
Italian. He's the #1 world champion of all time. Roman's fourth on the list. Roman just passed.
He was the guy. He was the hero champion, right? And when we were casting Street Trash, one of the possibilities for casting it, the movie's got the junkyard setting, and you've got the villain Bronson, played by Vic Noto, right?
Street Trash is a fucking mind fuck. Do not watch it alone.
But the thing is, I think he gives a great performance. But Bruno Sammartino was one of the people we considered for that part, and we could have gotten him from what was then the WWF, right? For like a ridiculously low price, because there was, at that time nobody was, paying wrestlers to do movies.
No, but God, what happened? He said no.
No. I to tell the truth, we never dealt with him directly. We just dealt with his management.
Oh my fucking God! Fucking Bruno Sammartino,
like Vince McMahon's dad, to tell the truth.
Oh, Vince Kennedy Sr.
Right, but the thing is, I don't think they understood. I mean, because we had for a low budget movie, we had a fairly decent shooting schedule, and we took care and effort to try and make it halfway decent. and they offered him to us for $10,000, right? And at the time, I'm thinking like, well, does he realize he might be working on this for like 5 or 6 weeks? But
No ring time.
They never used him. You know why? I mean, it's like the problem is he always came across as like a very nice guy. You know, the fans loved him. But my impression was there's no way he could believably play a villain like the one we wanted.
Oh, no, he's always been a face, bro. You know that. I can't believe you're into wrestling, Frank. That's so fucking amazing. My girlfriend Heather from Witch and Life Guide, she's a witch, my personal witch. Wow, Frank, you seem so happy and at peace, even after going through all that health stuff with the heart.
I am, and believe me, yeah, I've been through a lot. I went through my health thing, but I can now function and walk and be like mostly normal. I survived 2 crazy, almost murderous girlfriends in a row.
Holy shit! Whoa, that's for the next hour. Holy cow!
Well, I mean, to tell the truth, you sent me that little cartoon of Lucy with the thing, right?
You got it right. The girl from Misery.
It's a reference to Misery. I'm
your biggest fan, Frank. I had
a relationship that became Misery, like, and I literally had to. And this is when I was starting. My body wasn't working, and I was confined to a bed for a while. And I'm suddenly with this woman, and as I became weaker, she became crazier and crazier.
Oh no!
Yes.
Life imitating art. Oh boy. You're in a fucking Stephen King book.
It wasn't. No, she wasn't breaking my ankles or anything like that.
Yet, Frank, you got out of there in time.
But it was just like it became really slowly more and more obvious. There was something seriously wrong. I couldn't get the local police to listen to me because they wouldn't. They just automatically don't believe anything a guy has to say in most domestic.
If it's a guy and a chick, it's automatically, oh, okay, what is she going to beat you up? Okay, dude, whatever. Then you end up dead, and it's like, oh, how did we find this out? Look at Jack Ritter from Three's Company. His wife killed him, right?
There you go. Keep in mind, I had maybe like 25% of my normal strength at the time. I could barely walk from room to room.
Jesus, you were that bad, Frank.
Yeah, it was messed up. I survived, whatever, but I'll figure out a way to write a movie about it without people thinking I'm ripping off Misery.
Well, I got a question, Frank.
Yes.
Have you thought about writing a book, a bio?
At some time I might do something like that.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been thinking about, because Spookies has suddenly become relevant again. And some people just can't stop telling me how much it means.
Never went away for some, brother. That's why it's still here.
I've got hundreds of photographs that have never appeared anywhere. Lots of stuff that I'm thinking of doing some kind of a book that's either in the form of a memoir. I don't know if it would exactly be the making of Spookies, because I don't know if it would include all that kind of intricate, like, detailed documentation. But I mean, I have all the documents and everything. Almost everything was offered for the use of the Blu-ray when it came out. Most of it was never used.
What a shame.
So I have a lot, but if I have like hundreds of pictures no fans have ever seen, and I'd like to get them out there.
See, that's what we like to see, and you get the legacy, and we got to keep that remembered. And I think you have the key, my friend, and that's you're an amazing person. I've had a lot of guests on, and sometimes I feel like I don't know, but you've been through so much, and you're so prolific, and you're so down to earth.
I can't tell you, and I actually I can't stop bragging every time I get an interview or I do a podcast. I'm just so thrilled that everything has turned around like this.
Oh man, you shared it. You were excited.
The thing is, I mean, it's like in another world. We would have finished making Spookies ourselves. It would have been at least mildly successful enough for us to get another film made, and we'd have been filmmakers for the past 20, 30 or whatever years.
Yeah. In the history books.
But the thing is, myself and my partner Tom, we never stopped thinking about the movies we wanted to make. I mean, we just couldn't. And he was, I thought, just creatively, he was one of the most brilliant people I've ever known.
And you're doing them right. You're doing them justice.
I'm doing my best to do that. I mean, it's like there's a lot of him in the stuff I'm working on now. I've got, there's a Spooky sequel for which there's a completed script that has so far met with highly positive reactions from everyone I've shown it to. I've got to get it, I got to get the other end of the financial and presentation together and just get it out there. And I want to go to, the biggest players in the industry that I can. So We'll see.
I tell you, man, between the movies and shit, I was a fan of you. But now, honestly, dude, not to be like cliche or like a stalker or gay, whatever, but I'm a fan of Frank, dude. I'm a fan of whatever you do because you're a good person.
It means a lot to hear that because I generally, but every time I talk to somebody, I mean, I get a very favorable kind of feedback. I mean, I get like people, like I connect with people, and keep in mind, I'm connecting
right
with people
here.
now.
Danielle, Frank is so interesting.
For years, I had to keep my mouth shut about Spookies, basically, because it wasn't doing me any good. Anytime I brought it up in reference to trying to get other film work, it did no good to anybody. There were times, literally, when friends of mine would beg me for years, "Oh, can't we see Spookies? Can't we see Spookies?" And two of these people who did this, I said, "All right, I'm going to show you Spookies." And 10 minutes after it started, they demanded I turn it off.
What? Go watch it. It's free on YouTube. Go buy the fucking hard copy.
You're not supposed to tell people that, even though I don't own any of the current profits.
But go buy it. I'm going to buy it. Well,
it's actually, and the quality of the new copy, the new 4K transfer is beautiful compared to the old VHS, which is what's on YouTube.
Well, that brings me to my next question, Frank. Do you plan on doing meet and greets or conventions this fall, Halloween?
Funny you should ask, because that's what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to set up a schedule for the whole year and beyond of just going to places, getting it. But a lot of it is right now. I mean, there are people I'm working with. Got a guy who's become a good friend, Dave Williamson, who is helping me to get this organized. And he's the kind of person that I needed to be working with, and I'm glad to have met him.
Send him my way because I'm actually Donnie's agent, and I'm working to get him on like the Scream Con, which is put on by a metal band. It used to take place at the Rock and Chuck. It's in Massachusetts, right in Salem, every year.
Right.
And they do a couple things, but they're looking for people. They had Miko Hughes from Pet Sematary. They had Kane Hodder, who played Jason.
Right.
Hellraiser was there. I get to meet him. That was neat.
This is the thing, and I'm not sure where this is headed, but it just seems because
I want to meet you.
It's like it became really apparent to a lot of people how much money was being made by having horror conventions and groups meeting of one sort or another. So now there are not only the bigger conventions, but there seem to be smaller conventions in regions all over the country.
Popping up.
So I should mention, I am actually finally doing my first actual convention in August, which is in Knoxville, Tennessee. I will be at the CreepyCon in Knoxville from the 24th to the 27th.
Well, you know who the mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee is, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, I can't remember, but I had a discussion.
Kane Hodder, the wrestler, Kane.
Oh, wait. No, I didn't know. Is that,
brother.
Oh, come on. Is that true?
Glenn Jacobs is the mayor of Knoxville County. Yes. Glenn Jacobs won it last year. He's great. That's why he don't wrestle. So he could choke slam your ass right on camera. That'd be great, Frank. You could meet Kane, brother.
Oh, I'm a big fan of wrestlers who become politicians. It's like I love Jesse Ventura.
Oh, he loved weed too, which, yes. I got medical marijuana here in Maine, but that's cool, man. Your first
we supposedly have legal marijuana here in this state, but they haven't.
Mind if I smoke?
Any yeah, go right ahead.
You're gonna get there. I think that would help you with stuff too. Not telling you what to do, but even edibles. I think. We got about 10 minutes to go. There's one more question, but I want to ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
What does Frank listen to for tunes, man? You must like old shit, but you like new shit too. Pantera, Black Sabbath.
I listen to almost everything and anything, and I'm talking again, just like with movies. I'll go back to like the beginning of recorded sound and listen to stuff. And I just find that there's interesting stuff creatively being done at all times in human history, more or less. And the more I seek out stuff that is not commonly known about or familiar with, I find certain inspirations in it, and then it gives me ideas. And then people will say to me, where did you get an idea like this?
Man, you are a stoner. You did. No, seriously, I love that outlook because most people are very cliche. Like, I only listen to metal, or I only watch horror movies, but I mean, I'll watch Steel Magnolias just to see fucking Julia Roberts.
Yes, Steel Magnolias is the kind of movie I would watch because I figured, it'll probably have good acting and a few other things, but it's not necessarily my kind of movie.
Right, but for something different, I mean, I'll watch fucking Stephen King or fucking Blumhouse all day, but once in a while I'll throw on a goofy little. What is the? Oh shit, not the Bride of Frankenstein, but the when the joke one with the guy from Willy Wonka's in it. He goes Hofbach, and he goes,
yes, Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein's a good one, you know. And every time he says that, Broomhilda on the horse goes. So it's always good. So that's cool, man. I appreciate you. There's a question real quick to get back to Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Tom wants to know if you could tell us about the experience of being a zombie on
My
the
own
set.
makeup was fairly simple, meaning it was like just they had a standard zombie makeup that they did. And then depending, it was sort of a combination of how much time did they have to prep, how many zombies. So they would have like a certain number that they decide, all right, well, this guy gets a scar or this guy has his a limb missing or whatever it comes down to.
Oh, cool.
You know, but for me it was pretty much the standard ghoul makeup, which was sort of a I mean, you can see it in the movie. It's it's a bluish, greenish, gray sort of a pallor with
Did it smell? Steak?
Oh no, it's just makeup. I mean, it's makeup. Yeah, it smells like makeup. It smells
Chemical
like,
a little bit. Yeah, it's not itchy or nothing. That's fucking rad. You were a zombie in Dawn of the Dead. I mean, that's
and
obviously your other achievements are.
As you know, it's on the seltzer zombie. So I did. George Romero did have to stop and give me direction, because when I first got hit in the face with the seltzer, which knocked off my glasses, it's like I reacted to it because I wasn't expecting it to be like it was really hard. This stream of carbonated water into my eyes.
But still, I mean, looking back, of course, then you're just like, whatever, dude. But now it's like, and I'm not trying to be like fanboy, but fucking, he's one of the best ever. I mean, fuck. I mean, wow, to even talk to him was a gift. That's pretty neat.
He proved, to tell the truth, he'd been one of my early horror heroes, because I had been very interested in seeing Night of the Living Dead before I ever saw it. And I don't know if you've heard of this, but the film critic Roger Ebert, who's still a very celebrated film critic.
Siskel and Ebert, yeah.
Ebert in the late 60s or early 70s, he wrote a review of Night of the Living Dead, basically totally condemning it. He was angry because it showed up somewhere as a kiddie matinee, and he just totally tore it apart. Years later, he actually apologized for this review.
It made the National Congressional thing in Washington, D.C. as like a film, whatever the fuck. Like,
well, I mean, at the time, though, films like that just had they had no respect. They did amongst the people who loved that type of thing, but
you didn't care, though. You're telling your family, like, I'm in horror movies. I'm making horror movies. I love it. You're proud of
my
it.
Family, I mean, to tell the truth, I hate to have to say this, but my family, my sister, my parents, they never saw any of my movies that I know of.
Sounds like my family not seeing me when I was in a metal band singing. They just didn't like it, so they didn't support me. No shit. They never saw.
There was rarely even any acknowledgement of it.
That's fucking horrible. I'm sorry, dude, because you're a genius. And not only that, but honestly, Frank, even if you didn't make these movies, dude, if we were just talking like two dudes, your beard is phenomenal. But just talking to you, I'd be like, this guy's fucking awesome. You have a great attitude. Question from George. George is a big fan of he goes around the whole world looking at haunted items. Just great shit. Good dude. Question, he says, from Miami Beach, Florida. How would you rate modern horror movies as opposed to movies from the 70s, 80s, beyond?
All right. Well, here's the thing. There's always good and there's always bad.
You said that earlier. Yeah.
Right. Yep. I think some times like the 80s are considered to be better times just because there were more landmark films and there were just more films of that sort made in general at that time because they were all making money. And the problem is nowadays is there's a lot of newer stuff. I mean, there's some stuff I think is very interesting and different. I mean, for instance, I like Ari Aster's stuff, like Midsummer and what's the other one? I can't even remember the other one. But he just did a new film called Beau is Afraid, right? And he's making art movies. They're horror. There's horror elements, and they're definitely exploiting that aspect of emotions. But they're art films, so they tend to be very long and it's like a slow burn type of thing.
Well, so are foreign films, and you're all over that. You're all over the place. Foreign films can be 3 hours.
Yeah, well, but I like if something is well done and it draws me in, that's fine. But I feel what really makes me sad is I feel it's at least half of the horror movies made are still still ripping off the '80s stuff, right? You know, I mean, and I don't know what the current trend is, but for a while it seemed like there was like a new exorcism movie out on video every week at least. You know, it's a matter of like, all right, you know, it's like, yeah, we know these ideas get redone and reworked and everything else, but
that's horror.
You know, they just got to the point where there's so many of these movies, and it's like, my God, it's like, all these new movies, they're all like almost the same plot. I know nothing about them.
From the director that brought you this, the most terrifying epic sequel. It's like, what the fuck? I know what you did 4 summers ago in a cabin by the woods. I'm like, what? That's all over the place. I fucking love it, man. So couple more minutes to go. I mean, people can find you all over the place. I mean, doing your new stuff. Is there like your own project?
My social media is primarily Facebook. I think I'm also on Instagram. It's just my Facebook posting. So,
you do any YouTubing? You have a channel on there?
I haven't. I wouldn't have had, the past few years, I've been like constantly busy with everything I'm doing. I mean, I wrote 2 drafts of the new Spookies screenplay. I'm putting together a business plan and all this other stuff. And then plus this whole thing of just getting out to conventions and touring and connecting. That's a big part of my plan, because I sort of in my appeals for financing, etc., I'm planning to frame myself as essentially what I am. I'm this guy who made some horror movies going back to the 80s. A few things didn't work out. The films got screwed up. My career and my partner's career sort of got scuttled. Yeah. But we never stopped. We never gave up. We continued to believe. And then now suddenly we have a very devoted fan base that I just couldn't, it's still at times, to me, it seems like, how could this have happened? Like 5 years ago, no one would have. In fact, I have a T-shirt now that I just tried to design this past week. That's just all various video boxes for Spookies from different releases from around the world, right? But just like all these like 30 or more, of them, and then it's got in the middle of it, it's got Spookies. Never heard of it.
Oh, and there's people that sadly haven't because it's not a mainstream.
That's exactly when people would say, "Well, what movies have you made?" And I'd say, "Spookies," and they go, "Never heard of it."
I love it. I don't care. It's a fucking cult classic. Oh, someone look. Tom, watching Spookies right now. I love it so far. That a boy. Go buy it. The thing is, dude, you got to meet people, because I think the reason why is because at the time, there's no social media, and the kids that grew up on that didn't have a voice. Adults just saw, you know what I mean? I think we're growing up now, and people would, how many pictures? You'd have hundreds of thousands of people taking selfies with your ass in their phone, in their house, and that would be on forever. I mean, I got pictures with me, with Pinhead, Kane Hodder, the first Jason, Nick Castle, from the first Mike Myers. I love it. I would love to meet you. You're
see, this is
legend.
The thing. It's like I have, I tend to make a good impression when I connect with fans, because I'm just like you guys. It's like I love this stuff. I'm mostly doing this out of my natural affection for what this is. And it's great, especially when you do something creatively and people connect with it, even if it takes 30 or more years. And I'm just overjoyed, and I'm so delighted too, because man, if I get to make this script I've written for Spookies 2, it will sort of be my vengeance.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait. I got to ask you real quick before we go. What's on your
nothing like Spookies 1.
Hey, you know what? That's a shame, but we'll see. It's got to be good if it's from you.
It's wall to wall monsters. It's an out and out comedy. It's you'll care about the characters. And it's a real movie. It's almost an adult movie.
Who's on your shirt? Is that Johnny Cash? I can't quite see.
No. That is. You saw Street Trash?
Yeah, that's the guy. Fucking
Wizzy. Wizzy is the character.
Uzi, yes, his name. Yeah, yes.
Wizzy. He's the Wiz, as he says in the film.
He's got his own shirt. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, this is cool. Actually, I bought this a few months ago. A company came out with a new series of Street Trash shirts, and I really like this one.
See, I think the thing is too, dude. Before we go, we can go another 5 minutes over if you don't mind. I know we're taking a lot of your time here, but
Okay.
I think people didn't have that. There was no really conventions in the 80s or even 90s,
No,
really.
no. It's different. You know what it is? There were conventions. There've always been. I mean, there were conventions since I was like 13 years old.
No shit.
But they were smaller. They were less commercialized. They were most. A lot of them were just like the fans in an area getting together to trade comic books. It was not. And I stayed. And to tell the truth, after we made, after I had the situation with Spook, I just, one of the things I did is I stopped going to conventions. I stopped having that connection because I was kind of lost creatively and trying to figure out what to do. And when I returned and I started going to them again, which is I started going, gosh, when? Maybe like in the late 90s or something, right? I was amazed at how commercialized everything had become. And it had gone from like a lot of, it's not like that everywhere now. I thought it might be, but it had gone from like all these like little tables with cardboard boxes full of comics and a certain amount of new stuff and merchandise, etc. But it was all these small like independent business people doing this kind of stuff, and most of them were collectors, right? And then I went to the Chiller convention in like 1996 or something.
Oh no shit.
And then it was like, my God, like it's totally corporatized. It's like all the film companies have their hands in this. Most of the dealers' tables are people selling incredibly expensive custom stuff that the average fan can't probably even think about buying.
Yeah, it's cool to look at. But
well, the thing is also, I mean, my guess is there's less of that now at conventions because you can get all this stuff and more on the internet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure they still sell all this kind of stuff. But there would be companies that would come in and it's like, oh, here are 2,000 action figures that we make or whatever. And they'd have like a whole, block of tables and stuff. And I don't know if they go that big anymore because I don't think they have to.
Well, they sell like artwork, T-shirts, and like pops. Those little pop things. Like these, I got one of Alexa Bliss.
Yes.
So they sell a bunch of those. I mean, I had a Jason and Mike Myers and shit and Pinhead. But you can tell they sell a lot of DVDs, bootlegs, and like rare copies. But I just go for the meet and greets,
Right. Yeah. And for me, it's like there was a time when I started going to conventions, and for years, I would always buy a ton of stuff because it was the only place I really had a chance to even come into, a room where this stuff was. And now, I mean, I can go to 100 sites and find almost anything I'm looking for.
That's the difference. Yeah, back then you had rockabilly and shit to get heavy metal and horror stuff, and now you can get it fucking eBay.com. Bow, what do you want?
The real thing is, it's like for anything, whether it's music or it's art or it's anything you like, it's there. There's more of it than you can possibly even consume.
Yeah, snap of your fingertips. And that's why you say we're easier to film now. So, cool. They're giving me 4 more minutes, so let's kill it off here by saying, do you want to give shout outs to anybody or anything?
I'll say give a shout out to Dave Williamson, who's working with me. I've got a meeting with him on Saturday. Cecilia Cosentini, who's she is the wife of my late partner Tom Doran, who she was one of our art directors on Spookies, and was responsible for a lot of the key props and made a lot of the tombstones and that sort of thing. And then went on actually to become a CGI artist and worked on a lot of big television shows in the 90s, like the version of Dune they did in the 90s. She was part of the team that won an Emmy. So,
wow.
She continued in that.
I love that you remember the Fallen, man. I love that you give credit to where credit's due. You're very humble. I've talked to some guests. I've talked to Sandy Johnson, who was the first kill, Judith Myers in Halloween, also a Playboy. Great actress. I've had some people on here, but you've been one of the best, man. Very humble. I'd love to have you back on in a couple months. If there's something, maybe you do some conventions, we can get on and promote it.
You're absolutely free to welcome me back.
Oh, I love this guy. This will be on my YouTube channel tomorrow. I'll make sure and put it on Facebook and tag you, Historically Haunted. I got followers there. And people usually watch it after Thursdays are tough. I'm moving to Friday soon. But, dude, man, I couldn't thank you enough about your time. 3 minutes left to go. You have any questions for me, Frank?
Gosh, I don't know.
I usually end the show with that. I get people off guard.
No, I mean, I'm sad to say it's not like I did all my homework and checked your biography and your criminal record or anything.
Shame. No, man. Honestly, long story short, because I'm gonna brag a little bit, I guess. I've saw my first apparition at fucking 9. My grandfather died and came to me. I saw my first dead body at 13. My grandfather flatlined in the hospital in Lewiston. I went to the same high school as Stephen King. Grew up in Maine. I've seen UFOs. I've seen Bigfoot. And I died in a car accident 2 years ago for 38 seconds after my mom died. I came back. And, man, I got no kids. I got my girl. I'm 44. And I'm just up here in northern Maine by Mount Katahdin, by the Appalachian Trail. You know where that is? Greenville.
Yeah.
And I look at plane crash sites. I've been to Pet Cemetery filming sites, Langoliers, Hubie Halloween, Casper. And Storm of the Century. And I just dig it, man. And I dig my podcast. And I try to find cool people. And you fit the bill because I knew it'd be more than just spookies, which is great. But you're a cool cat that got a lot. You got a lot to bring to the table, and I think you writing a book and making another movie about it would be fucking fantastic. I got your back, dude. I will share and promote that shit till the cows come home.
Well, I mean, I should tell you, like, one of the fact is that here in my town, one of the elements in the story is there's a character who runs a magic shop, you know, for witchcraft and that sort of thing, based on a friend of mine in town here who ran a magic shop.
Shut up. Oh, that's killer. We're talking like palm reading, like voodoo, maybe like future telling and shit. Palm.
They actually did all kinds of things. They had different people with different kinds of beliefs that came in. They actually, even though like I said, I'm not necessarily like a complete believer, but I went to weekly meetings over there one time and just to talk with people.
Just to kind of
I figured, all right, anybody who's here is at least probably going to be interesting to talk to, if nothing else.
It's entertainment and it's free and it's why not? Which I know we're running out of time, but that's fine. I got to ask you real quick, which reminds me, you guys use this board in Spookies. It reminds me of the Ouija board of sorts, a spirit board, kind of.
Oh, yeah. Well, a quick summary. I don't even know if this is mentioned in the documentary, but our backer, because he was afraid of being sued by everybody and anybody, he wanted us to come up with an original design for a Ouija board because he was just, he was worried that the owners of the Ouija board, which at the time
Milton Bradley?
No, it looked like it was Parker Brothers.
Parker.
But the fact is, there were many companies selling Ouija boards. There was no copyright on the Ouija board idea.
It's a spirit board of sorts, is what it's named after.
Yeah. It's not like it's somebody has. To tell the truth, there was somebody who actually owned the rights to that. They would have become like incredibly rich.
They've sued so many motherfuckers by now, Frank. But it's all right. You got a guy that's worried to death about shit. That's so funny. Let's rip off Goonies, but don't put a Ouija board in there. Okay, dude. Whatever.
He went back on all the stuff he told us. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't. Our original climax that we wanted for the movie involved zombies. He said, no zombies. Zombies got my films put on the video nasty list in England. And because that was a big 80s censorship campaign of horror movies in England. And so he instructed us, no zombies. So we did a whole thing with ghosts. Then when we walked off the production with our special effects people, there was no way to do the ghosts at an economic price for him. So he had the new director do zombies.
No shit. So he's almost a stickler, not a stickler, but he's almost like got his own stigma of what he wants. So if you do this Spookies 2, are you going to have the full realm of this, the full helm, the go?
I'm hoping to be the director. That's the main intention here. I think I'm hoping to, here's the thing. I'm hoping to draw people into it little by little, slowly. But just like yourself, so many fans that I've connected directly with or who have written to me online have made it really clear. If you're making a spooky sequel, I want to work on it. I'll do anything. I'll work for nothing. And it's not like I want to pay them nothing, but the point is, I would love to do.
You want to be a part of it, Frank?
I would love to do a production. But the good thing is, a lot of people who liked my movie or were claimed to be inspired by it are now professionals of one sort or another. I'm talking about actors, cameramen, makeup people. And so I would love to be able to, if I brought in as many Spookies fans to begin with and said, all right, there's this new movie that I'm making. It's going to be 100 times better than Spookies. I guarantee.
It's a fucking, I'm already ready to bite on everything. Psychic medium Allie Bennett steps in. She's a big fan. Every Foster area, Foster say checking in. Hello. We're ending the show now. We're getting done talking to Frank. Frank Farelli? I fucked it up again.
FAREL.
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 Yeah, what did I say the first time? Farelli, what an idiot. That's what I get for smoking Maine weed. FAREL, I know. We're both Italian, Paisan. I should know that shit. Pacelli over here. Well, originally Pacelli. Now I'm vegan. I guess it's a French name. So, hey, man, we're going to follow you. Everybody's checking you out. Some more people are checking you out. I'm going to share the shit out of you. I'm going to watch Evil Dead. All right, not Evil Dead. Dawn of the Dead. I'm going to watch that probably before bed tonight. And I got to check out your other shit. I'm going to tag you in. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to fangirl you here for a couple months.
Well, if you were an actual girl, I would have no objection.
Just a figure of speech. No, seriously, Frank, you've been a fucking hoot, dude. You've been a really killer guest.
Well, no, look, I try to be, because here's the thing. It's like anytime I've worked, on a movie, whether it's mine or somebody else's, and there's a group experience, and sometimes it can be miserable. I admit that. Sometimes people don't get along or there are real problems, and you don't have a good experience. But when
your coworkers sometimes, yeah.
You can also have a terrific experience, man. You're working with a bunch of people. You're doing something that you like, that you get to exercise your talent and creativity on, and it's a different thing when you're on a movie where everybody is rooting for what's going on. Everybody wants to do the best job they can humanly do, as opposed to many situations where people are just there because the salary is very nice.
And their egos. But that's cool because at Silver Screen Con, where I met these people, I met Ken Foray, and I talked to him for 10 minutes. And for you to tell me and say he's a good dude, I mean, obviously you have bad days, but he's a decent dude. And not that I need to know dirt on everybody, but that's kind of heartwarming. And I got to admit, Frank, you're on my bucket list to meet, dude. I'm going to fucking meet you, give you a nice high five, a bro hug.
Okay, well, maybe, I mean, look, have me back on. Maybe at some point in the next few months, I may, call on you for some advice on conventions to hit that are within your knowledge or area.
Because I would love that. I will hook you up in New England. I'm gonna get Donnie some things because the truck from Pet Cemetery is it's almost done being refurbished, and he's gonna tour with the truck that killed the kid. And if he can get that going, and I'll fucking put in a good word for you, dude. All I want's a fucking picture and an autograph, and you don't have to bake me any bread or anything. That's all I take from you, Frank. So, hey, man, guys, check out Frank. Follow him on Facebook. Just don't be a dick because he'll block you. But send him a friend request. He's pretty humble dude when it comes to people. And you've been around. You've done a lot of shit. So,
let me just clarify that, because I will, when fans want to talk to me, when they, want to interview me, certainly. But I mean, I'm usually open to just talking to meeting almost anybody, whether it's in person, online. At the same time, I get occasional people who just seem to have no understanding of when they're wasting somebody's time. I mean, I've been interviewed by people who had no idea who they were even interviewing.
I watched some. I'm not gonna lie. I did my homework. I watched some, and you could tell you're just like, you're like.
I wind up interviewing myself more or less. I just have to sort of.
You take the show over.
Well, it's I think it's great that everybody has the opportunity to have their own show or make their own movie. I don't think it means everybody should.
That a boy. But that makes the ones that are good that much stick out.
Yeah.
Allie's sister, Averill Foster. Thank you so much for checking in, first timer. So anyway, dude, I'm gonna let you go. I've stole too much of your time. Right. And I'll have the copy up on YouTube tomorrow, and I'll have you back in the future. And please don't ever hesitate to just fucking reach out to me, because every once in a while I'm probably gonna say hi, and don't take offense to it. Just I think you're a cool dude.
I'm most of the time I'm like glued to my computer and working at home, but I'm trying to get to a point where, because there are a lot of times I just like to get like a quick consensus of like a half a dozen fans that know one thing or another, and like
I'm sure it's nonstop. Oh yeah.
Because the thing is, I won't say I don't want to do a movie just to please the fans. I would like anything I do to please people, right? But I sort of I also have like some of my tastes and artistic intentions are probably like pretty like weird or different or not necessarily the usual stuff. So hopefully I can get people to go with that.
But the best part is you're doing what makes Frank fucking happy, and you're still here, and we love that, brother. That's what
whatever happens, I'm happy right now because I sort of have the go ahead on something. I mean, most of my life has been spent having doors slammed in my face for one thing or another, and now the doors have suddenly opened here and there. So
You're an inspiration to never give up, to never give in, and you're
well, no, you
respecting.
shouldn't, because it's like I
You are.
admit that Spookies is proof that you never know how things may turn to the left or right, and the whole scenario could change.
And you're doing good on your fallen brother, and I fucking commend that, because most people could just take all the credit and go, yeah, it's me. But you have mentioned him 8, 9, 10 times. People know his name and his family. And anyway, I could go on for another hour, but I'm gonna let you go. So thank you guys for watching. Check this cat out. Very cool dude. Check out next week's episode. I forget who the fuck we got. Doesn't matter. Check this episode out tomorrow on YouTube. Watch it again, because I'm gonna know. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Okay.
See ya.
I hope to see you again soon, Adam. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, everybody.